Widely considered one of the greatest of all time in mixed martial arts, Jose Aldo was an explosive fighter with a dangerous kicking and Muay Thai arsenal, and insane takedown defense.
When I walked in the cage, it was fine. Just when I seen him, I was like, oh, I'm fighting Jose Aldo.
He looked largely unstoppable for the better part of his career until he ran into one of the other greatest featherweights of all time. This aura of invincibility faded after his first defeat, and numerous fighters quickly figured out a way to nullify a man who was once considered the most dangerous fighter on the planet. Aldo's MMA journey started in Brazil, where he won an incredible 7 straight fights. He suffered his first defeat to Luciano Azevedo by second-round rear naked choke, which sparked the rise and eventual climb to the top of mixed martial arts for the UFC Hall of Famer. His MMA career really caught fire in 2008 at WEC 34, where he knocked out Alexandre Franca Nogueira by elbows in just 2 rounds in his debut fight. He went on to win a staggering 7 straight fights, beating elite competition like a prime Cub Swanson and Uriah Faber. In the Faber fight, Aldo showed what it meant to be an elite leg kicker.
Yeah, I was immobile after that. I mean, I couldn't really get spring. I was just kind of pushing through it, but you can kind of see here. My leg matches my shorts here.
Oh my God, look at that. Oh, Jesus, look at that bruise.
Yeah, and then my leg's like twice. My leg's twice the size as it should be.
In 7 of his first 8 WEC fights, Aldo won with finishes like elbows, punches, and devastating knees. Not only was he putting on dominant performances, but he defeated the majority of opponents mentally leading into the fights. His opposition was petrified of his knockout power and his ability to keep fights standing on the feet with elite takedown defense. On April 30th, 2011, Aldo made his UFC debut against Mark Hominick, winning a 5-round decision for the featherweight championship. He defended his belt 6 straight times before taking the biggest fight of his career against the notorious Conor McGregor. McGregor had built a lot of momentum, both in the octagon with his performances and his out-of-ring persona and charisma. There was an incredible amount of tension between the fighters, with Conor constantly poking fun at Jose Aldo and getting under his skin.
Ele entende o outro lado sim, ele entende a pessoa, mas é cara de visão, entendeu? Que ele consegue visualizar ali onde que ele pode arrancar.
This was the first time Aldo appeared to be emotionally flustered leading into a bout. Conor's trash talk proved to be effective, with Aldo getting sparked and knocked out within just 13 seconds of the first round. The MMA world exploded in a frenzy, and after this point, Jose Aldo's career began to take a serious nosedive. Aldo's road back to the title proved to be extremely difficult. After winning a unanimous decision against Frankie Edgar in a 5-round title fight, he fought the lengthy and talented striker Max Holloway for the UFC featherweight title at UFC 212. There was reason to believe Aldo could build another winning streak, but Holloway had different plans in mind. Aldo was knocked out in the 3rd round by punches, and in a highly anticipated rematch at UFC 218, he was once again knocked out in the 3rd round by Max, this time by ground strikes. It was too early to tell Aldo to consider retirement, especially after only losing 4 times in his career. But signs of declining fighting ability were becoming apparent with each performance. It seemed Aldo's career was pretty much finished.
How is Aldo doing, dude? Does anybody know?
Who knows? Hopefully good.
Why do you think he's going to get hurt again?
He could easily get hurt again. He's pulled out for multiple fights.
But he somehow racked up 2 straight victories against Jeremy Stevens and then Renato Moicano. Both fighters were established gatekeepers, and not only did Aldo secure victories, but he knocked out each fighter in devastating fashion.
It was good to see Jose Aldo back on top, man. He needed that bad, dude.
Well, when someone I'm always happy when someone wins with a liver shot.
Oh.
Because it's it's one of those weird punches.
It seemed Aldo wasn't completely washed and had more left in the tank. After building momentum leading into UFC 237 on May 11th, 2019, he was outpointed by Alexander Volkanovski, losing a unanimous decision leading to another downward career spiral. He looked like the older and slower fighter for the majority of the fight, and his athleticism appeared to be fading. What's worse is questions surrounding the legitimacy of his performances began to rise.
Depending on what is actually going on when it comes to PEDs over there, who knows? Who knows? I mean, there's so much speculation.
His coach had a press conference.
After suffering 5 losses, Jose Aldo still wanted to prove himself against the best of the best in the UFC. More than likely against the judgment of his management, he took a fight against the dangerous Marlon Moraes. However, Aldo showed he could still compete with the elite in the divisions, losing a controversial split decision. The loss was demoralizing. After a crushing defeat against Moraes, Aldo suffered the worst and most brutal loss of his career.
Let's talk about fight stoppages, because this past weekend it was a major talking point in your division when Jan was playing bongos on top of Aldo's head.
He stepped in to fight the highly touted Peter Yan for the UFC Bantamweight title. This was a huge mistake. Aldo was overpowered on the feet and in grappling exchanges against the smaller fighter. All of Aldo's offensive striking was blocked and nullified, and he couldn't generate any effective grappling. This made the beatdown tougher to watch as Aldo seemed helpless against a younger and prime Peter Yan. Yan eventually finished Aldo with ground strikes in the 5th round to secure the Bantamweight title. After suffering the worst loss of his career, the MMA community and UFC brass pretty much unanimously agreed that it was time for Aldo to retire. But it's hard for fighters to give up what they love, and somehow Aldo had another career resurgence. He defeated 3 straight top bantamweights, including Marlon Vera, Pedro Munoz, and Rob Font. Aldo seemed to have a new pep in his step and could once again compete for bantamweight supremacy. The feel-good story once again came to an end when Aldo faced Merab Dvalishvili. Despite winning 3 straight fights, it was believed Aldo wouldn't have good enough grappling to fend off the takedowns of Merab. He lost a unanimous decision, but didn't completely embarrass himself. After losing to Merab, it seemed like it was the end of the road for Jose.
He's hilarious, dude. Anyways, he's looking to dabble into the WWE, so make money. We gotta use a brand that the UFC has given you, or all these other platforms, and continue to keep making money and be an entrepreneur. So I'm happy for him.
He announced his retirement, and the MMA community was relieved to see a legend ride off into the sunset. Of course, in typical Jose Aldo fashion, he wasn't quite ready to retire. At this point, he was an established Hall of Famer, and Dana White couldn't tell him not to fight. He took a fight against Mario Bautista. Despite losing to Mario in a grappling-heavy decision, Aldo won the admiration of fans for at least attempting to put on a decent fight with a sluggish opponent. Ultimately, Jose Aldo cemented himself as an all-time great and UFC Hall of Famer who will be remembered for generations. And to watch career breakdown of another retired legend, check out this video on losses of Jorge Masvidal.